Hello, my friends, and welcome to Momentum Boost. I'm your host, Adrienne Gold-Davis, and I'm so delighted you're joining us today because in this episode, we are giving you tips and tools and fantastic activities to ensure that this Rosh Hashanah, which is likely to be very different than any other Rosh Hashanah, comes alive for you. We're going to create a spiritual action plan for the upcoming Jewish New Year. So this might be the most important boost of your year. I want you to treat it like a workshop. So grab a pen or a journal or start up the engines on your phone so you can type away, because this really is for you. Today, we are thrilled to have Minister Omer Yankelevich, Rabbi David Jaffe, and Dr. Ronit Ziv-Kreger here with us. But before I properly introduce you to Rabbi Jaffe and Dr. Ziv-Kreger, we have a very special Rosh Hashanah greeting for you from the minister herself. So Israel's Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Omer Yankelevich, is a lawyer, a social activist, a certified teacher, and a mediator. She holds a BA and a master's in law. She is also the founder of a volunteer organization which initiated social projects to promote equal opportunities for minority groups in Israel. So just to set a frame for this blessing you're about to get from the minister, let me explain to you how Momentum came to partner with the ministry in the first place. So the first 300 women of Momentum landed in Israel in 2009. The next year there were 600, and then 900, and then 1,000, and then in 2014, Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, that's the ministry that cares for and strengthens us, the Jews that live outside of the land of Israel. Well, they contacted us at Momentum, then we were called the JWRP, right? And asked us to meet. So quickly, they saw that we were onto something huge, and they said, listen, double your numbers, get into Eastern Europe, and we'll help back you. And we did. And they've been helping us ever since. Not only did they contribute financially, they've guided us to think strategically and always to think big. So after the last election, the ministry had shifted, and we wondered, who's going to lead us now? Are they going to like us? They're going to understand the power of Momentum and continue to support and guide us to the next level of reach and impact? Well, the HP, the higher power, came through in spades, as the new Minister of Diaspora Affairs is none other than Omer Yankelevich, an educated, accomplished Israeli woman, a mother of 5, a daughter of immigrants from Eastern Europe, and someone who truly understands the power of the Jewish woman. We and all of world Jewry are truly blessed to have her. And so it's my honor and my privilege to welcome and present to you Minister Omer Yankelevich.
Thank you, Adrienne. To the strong and resilient Jewish women around the world, Rosh Hashanah is about both looking back and moving forward. It says in the Talmud that Hashem sends the refuah before the makkah, the solution before the challenge. Our greatest tool in response to the challenges facing us today is our shared unity as Jewish women. Anyone who has experienced Momentum knows this firsthand. I hope the friendships and inspiration you gained on Momentum continue to bring you clarity and comfort. It's our sisterhood that connects us to Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, that builds bonds between us today and between our daughters tomorrow. Our shared power as Jewish women, as Jewish mothers, is the great strength of our people. As we reflect on this last year and look forward to brighter days to come, let us dive deeper into this connection. Thank you to my friends and partners at Momentum. We are so proud of our partnership with such a vision-driven, woman-powered organization. On behalf of myself, my family, and the state of Israel, I wish you a heartfelt Shana Tova. Tachel Shana u'virkotea. Shana Tova u'metuka miYerushalayim. May it be a year of good health, joy, and prosperity for all. I await you here in Israel, or the opportunity to visit you in your community, Be'ezrat Hashem, in the coming days. Shana tova umetuka.
Wow. Wow. Okay, now it's my pleasure to introduce Rabbi David Jaffe. So Rabbi David Jaffe is a National Jewish Book Award-winning author. He leads Inside Out, Wisdom and Action, which is a project that's dedicated to integrating personal and spiritual development and communal work for social change. Welcome, Rabbi Jaffe.
Adrienne, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. Really exciting to be with an organization that does amazing work with worldwide Jewry. Really exciting. That was a great welcome from the minister. So I'm very happy to be here. What we're going to do over the next 25 minutes, half hour together, Adrienne, and with all the people who are watching, is what I call building a spiritual action plan for the new year. And we're coming into Rosh Hashanah, end of this week. This is a time of looking at ourselves, thinking about how we want to grow, who we want to be in the world. And we can do that, and we can come up with an idea like, oh, I need to be more patient this next year, right? Or I need to be, more loving, or all kinds of things that we know we need.
Right.
If you don't have an actual plan, how are you going to do that? You're going to come to next Rosh Hashanah, and you're basically going to say the same thing. Oh, I need to be more patient. And now that may be a life task, but if you have a plan, you'll grow. And, you recently there was a workshop a few weeks ago on Momentum Boost that really was also making a plan for this. So what this is going to be is we're going to build on what the work you did there, or for women who didn't see that and get a chance to see it, this will really be a good starting place as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So I want to say how it relates and how we're going to frame this, and then we'll jump in and get to work.
Okay.
So the spiritual action plan is a lot about verbalizing, right? And then what you presented the other day was the RSVP method, or the SRVP. Stop the action, regret it, verbalize what you're going to do, and then have a plan, have a project to go forward. So what we're going to do today is to create something that you can verbalize. And if you're going to be involved in services at some point over Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, you could bring in and actually make part of your prayer and what you do there. And if it's not necessarily what you do, you can just make it something you say and something you make as part of your hopes and intentions for the next year. That's the frame of what we're going to do. And then a lot of the tools we're going to do are based on something called midot, or traits. Values, the values and traits that are important to us. And Judaism has a thousands of year tradition of understanding these different traits, or it can be called soul traits, and how those focusing on them can help us achieve our spiritual goals in our life. So that's what we're going to do.
Fantastic.
All right. So ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So we're going to start with the first step is having something that's you want to work on. Having some area of your life or something like that. So, and as you did on the webinar a few weeks ago, there's many areas we could look at. I think you looked at finances, relationships, a bunch of other things. The way I tend to have people look at it is you have your spiritual life, you have your self-care, you have your inner circle relationships, you have your wider relationships in the world. For our purposes today, because we don't have a lot of time, I just want to do one thing. I want to ask people, and if you're following along on this, watching, I want to ask people to think about an inner circle relationship. This could be, if you have a partner, that you're with, or a spouse. It could be parents. It could be friends, colleagues, but someone inner circle that you're really in community with, in regular relationship with, as the focus. And I want you to think about that relationship. And I'm going to ask you two questions. The first question is, where do you get joy and gratitude in a relationship in this past year? Think about, where is joy and gratitude in a relationship? Again, I think it's very important to start with the positive and have a sense. Tshuva is not all about like banging on your chest and I did something wrong. It's also noticing, what are the gifts that I have in this world? And so we want to notice that. So that's question one.
Okay. Can I ask you something for a minute?
Of course, yeah, please.
Okay. So if you're looking for the joy and gratitude, is this in the same relationship as you're going to ask yourself about what needs improving?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily, although it could be interesting to do that. Okay, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay, great.
So we have one of joy and gratitude, and then the second question is, what is a relationship that needs tending to? what's something that needs tending to? And you can think about, is there something you're yearning for or wanting in a relationship that you need to pay more attention to in this coming year?
Does
That's
tending
question
mean
2.
repairing? Does that mean
Tending,
repairing?
repairing. Yep. Yeah. It could be
Okay.
repairing if something was broken. It could be,
Okay.
or it could be just building up stronger than it is
Okay.
already.
Okay, cool.
Let me give an example. So while you're thinking about yours, I want to give an example. And so for
All right,
folks at
good.
home as well. So Tal, can you bring up the slide, and we'll go to the first slide. So my example here is I don't follow through on my own desire to maintain better regular contact with my 2 younger brothers and their families. I wait for them or my parents to take initiative to bring us together.
Whoa.
And this is like, I'm the oldest, and so I have 2 younger brothers, and we were very close when we were younger, especially me and my middle brother, who's closer in age to me. And so I care about him very much. But it's really thank God my parents are still alive, and it's really them who are the motivators of bringing the whole family together. Although I will say that we did get in the car and drove 40 hours straight to Montana to my nephew's bar mitzvah this summer. Because of COVID, we didn't want to stop anywhere. So we went. So I am committed to these relationships. Just give you that as an example.
Okay.
But in between times, following up, talking regularly, texting, just the kind of things to keep the right that we really know each other in each other's lives. I want that. I have a desire for that, and I just don't follow through on it. So that's something for me that I'm making a focus for my tshuva for this coming year. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm offering people to come up with some example like that. So I'll stop there for a second, Adrienne. I want to know if you have a thought or have a question you want to ask.
Well, I'm just, I was thinking about where my gratitude lies, because that's what you first mentioned. But when I look at this, of course, it's interesting. It's like you reached into my brain. I'm one of 4 children, and I live further away. They all live sort of in one community, and I'm a distance. And I often regret that we're not closer than we are. And yet I know that, it's 3 of them there and me down here. So it needs to be me. So this could have been my question as well. So
It's a good
get out
one.
of my head or you have to pay rent.
Now tell how about, did you have a joy and gratitude that was on your mind?
I do have a joy and gratitude. And thankfully, because I did a bit of this work last year, my relationship with my children who don't live with me anymore, who are adult men, who required a new kind of relationship, a mother who they could turn to, but who was at best of times the consultant and kept my hands off their life. I've been very successful, and the rewards of little bit of underfunctioning have been so profound. They even actually call me for advice, and I'm so incredibly grateful for the work I did to dial myself back again this year.
Wow, that's so. I saw when you were talking about that on the last video, and that was really moving. I had a very good relationship with my mother-in-law, which I know is an unusual type of thing, and it means a lot. And so this is actually, you just gave a great advertisement for why to do this work, because if you come up with these things and you really work on them during the year, you can get to that next year and say something like, wow, I feel really a lot of gratitude for my brothers that we're in such good touch and we know what's going on in their lives. See, these things can move and change. So thanks for offering us that.
You're welcome. But just to clarify, they're not married. I'm not a mother-in-law yet. Could
Okay.
they please get married, Rabbi Jaffe? Please. I beg you. Okay. Stop. I'll control myself.
That's another area for another day.
This year.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we have our thing, right? So we have our thing that we want to work on. So you have your siblings, I have my siblings, and we want to have these closer relationships. People at home, like, figure out what's an inner circle relationship that could use tending, working on, repair if it needs repair. And now we're going to move to the next stage, which is these things, the traits that I talked about, the soul traits. And I just want to explain these a little bit before we go into choosing 1 or 2 traits. So Tal, can you do the next slide, please? All right. So why is there an airplane on here? I want to tell you an analogy from Rabbi David Lappin, a wonderful, wonderful teacher of mine. He talks about that our lives, it's similar to an airplane. And a pilot is flying an airplane and wants to see how high or low the plane is flying. There's an instrument called an altimeter. and he'll look at the instrument, or she'll look at the instrument and see, okay, this is how high we're flying. Similarly, we have instruments that tell us how we're doing in life. We have our emotions and our emotional state. We have our physical bodies, what we're feeling, aches and pains, that's data, that's information for us about us and how we're doing. We have our relationships with other people that give us data about how we're doing. And we have our spirituality, our relationship with Judaism, with Torah, with God, that also is information for us. So just like the pilot on that airplane is, when the plane needs to go down, she's not going to bang on the altimeter, press the altimeter. That's not going to do anything. It's just telling you how high it's flying. Similar for us. If I'm having a challenge with my son about maybe the way he's speaking to me or something, or cleaning up after things, and I'm like yelling at him about it and getting all frustrated and worked up with him, I shouldn't bang on him, because the way he's talking to me is really just, I don't mean bang physically, I mean like talk to him. I shouldn't give him a hard time. I need to look at me, and I need to look at where are my controls. He's just giving me data about me.
Oh my gosh, this is a brilliant metaphor.
This is so David Lappin, Rabbi David Lappin. This is where it's from. This is just he's just giving me information about me, so I need to look inside me. And that's the role of these values or traits, is we look inside and we say, okay, maybe there's an issue with we call kavod, issue with dignity and respect, the way I'm respecting him and talking to him. And if I could shift that, then he may respond to me differently. That's where we have. So in Judaism, we really always believe in looking inside first, and where are our controls. And those traits, or midot, we call them in Hebrew, are our controls.
Love it. Okay, sorry. I'm excited. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's great. It's really, really useful. So we want to be thinking about, that's what we're going to do now in a couple minutes, is think, what are the traits that relate to the relationship with the siblings, that if I can move those traits, I might get some movement on this thing that I care about.
Okay,
and
one second. Before you go on, sorry to interrupt. Somebody's asking, can you repeat the 4 soul traits?
Yeah, well, the 4, I mean the 4 instruments, the 4 instruments.
Yeah.
So the 4 instruments are, and there may be more, but in this analogy, the 4 are your body, your physical body, and the aches and pains, that the emotions you're feeling, your relationships with other people, and your spirituality. Those are giving you information about you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, and we're going to get into the soul traits you can access to deal with whatever the information is coming at you. So Tom, if you go to the next slide, I want to show this other. So here's a wagon wheel. Why am I showing you a wagon wheel? It's old style wagon wheel. So I'm going to tell you, the wagon wheel is here. It's this represents the traits and how the traits work in us and work in life. So, and what am I talking about with these traits? So, different traits, anything you can think of in the human personality really is one of these soul traits. But some of the biggies are humility, patience, trust, anger, courage, things like that. Okay. So imagine those are the spokes of the wheel, are these different traits. Humility is one spoke. Patience is another spoke. Respect is a third spoke. So, and maybe what we could say is our neshama, our soul, is that inner, I'm not exactly sure in the analogy, but the way this works is that wheel is only going to turn well if those spokes are at the right place. And so let's take humility, for example. So if I am, I work with a lot of leaders, and a leader needs to really step up and take space at certain times. So say, this leader is giving you're giving a talk, at the gala meeting. You need to take a lot of space. But if you're the kind of person who's a little more retreating and more maybe quieter, that's going to be really hard for you. So let's imagine that humility spoke. It's not reaching the wheel quite. It's maybe halfway. And so when that wheel turns, it's going to be a little wobbly. And so that person who needs to give this talk at the gala needs to expand that humility spoke to go out. Now, humility, in the Jewish understanding of humility, it's not just being meek and retreating. Right. It's actually taking up the proper amount of space. As Dr. Alan Morenis writes, it's being right-sized. It's giving enough space, but also taking space. That's the Jewish understanding of humility. So When our example here, that person, that board chair, is not really being humble enough, is not taking enough space as is called on in that moment. And that's the purpose of this analogy, is that the moment calls on us to show up with our traits in a very particular way, and the next moment might call on something different. So let's go back to our board chair, our person who's in leadership. Now, say they love taking space, and they're really comfortable being at the front of the table and that kind of thing. When it comes time to really hear tough decision that organization needs to make, and they really need to listen to everyone's voice and hear what's happening, if they're not able to shut up and they're not able to pull themselves back and give space to others, that wheel's not going to turn well, and that they're not going to come to a good decision. And you can think about this in terms of your families. You can think about it in terms of your communities. We are called on to show up in very particular ways in particular moments. And so the whole thing with the traits is knowing, how am I needing to show up with this trait in this moment? It's not static.
Oh my, so am I understanding correctly that these traits, these measures of our character, we need to be flexible and we need to answer to what the situation calls for as opposed to who we are? Is that correct?
Well, who we are is going to be flexible. I hope, maybe let's say it this way: who our kind of natural go-to way of being.
Right.
Right? Because yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So you may have a natural go-to, like you're super like overly patient almost. And there's going to be situations where this wrong happened. You need to stand up and you need to like say what's going on and like defend yourself, or vice versa. So yes, I'm saying that at times we're going to need to go against maybe that's our natural or our learned or our habitual ways of showing up. Okay. We need to be able to be flexible with those things.
So in other words, really from a Jewish standpoint, what you're saying is that the way we move through the world is not based on how we are naturally, but what the situation calls for.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
how do you know what the situation calls for?
Well, that's a great question. I can give you not a good example, which is Abraham in the Bible, where he hears God talk to him directly. So that's one way you can know. But most of us don't have that privilege of having God talk to us directly. So we have to be more, I think we have to be attentive. And really attentive to the moment. I think we have to know ourselves and really do the inner work to know what our habitual ways of showing up are. Okay. And then we need to be attentive and mindful to what's this moment calling on. And we have to be in relationship with people, because we fool ourselves all the time. And so we have to actually be in good relationship with someone who's going to tell us, no, that's not what's needed right now. You need to show up somewhere else. And we need to take leadership, actually. And leadership can look lots of ways. You can take leadership in your family. You can take leadership in your neighborhood. You can take leadership, because when we take leadership and there's something that needs to actually happen, that is forcing us to face the moment. And we have to know, okay, can I just like push through in the way I usually am? Or you know what? Maybe not. Maybe something else is called on now. If you really care about being effective in that moment, you're going to need to be flexible.
Wow. Clearly. So you have to know yourself pretty well and be scrupulously honest with yourself. Otherwise, how do you know where you need to adjust your spoke, right?
Totally. And that's what, I think Judaism calls on us at least once a year during this time, Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, to be really honest with ourselves and take a real good look at ourselves, not being harsh, not being judged, any of that, but let's just check in and where I am, and then what traits maybe need to get a little more flexible with and move.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So that's I wanted to give that as background for, working with these traits. So can we see the next slide, please? And so here are some traits that, I mentioned to you before, and folks can get access to this after. They can, take a look at this when you're doing your own work. Again, I mentioned some of these before. Enthusiasm is a trait. Generosity is a trait. Passion is a trait. Can we see the next one, Tom? Love, truth is such an important trait. Order. Having order, creating structure around things. Gratitude is a trait, and flexibility, which we were just talking about. Silence, just being quiet is a trait, and giving space to other people, taking things in, listening to yourself, listening to your own voice. That's one of the ways we know each other.
So, Rabbi, it seems to me, and somebody's just commenting about this, that a trait can be both negative and positive based on the situation.
Right on. Yep, right on. That's one of our great rabbis, Rabbi Israel Salanter, one of the great teachers in the 19th century. He said that you need to cultivate every trait and its opposite, because it's going to be called on at different times. And so there are traits that we tend to think of them negatively, but really, in theory, there's not a negative, because the moments may call on things. Right.
It's so interesting. It's so counter to pop culture where, I am what I am. That's not Jewish, is it?
We want to be showing up in the moment. We want to be, how am I being called on? How am I being called on to show up? Hineni. That's one of our great, words in the Bible. Hineni. Here I am. I'm here to show up. How do I do it?
Gorgeous.
So, someone wise said to me recently that he finds that, I think he was a therapist, he says he finds that people make mistakes more in the direction of their strengths than in their weaknesses.
What do you mean? Give me an example.
You make mistakes more in the direction of your strengths. So, for example, my go-to is I'm very personally. I'll just say personally, I'm very structured and disciplined. A very disciplined person, and so that's a strength for myself. But if I apply that like in the wrong situations too much, like I'm expecting like everyone else in my family to be as disciplined as I am, and I try to apply it to them, they can end up feeling really oppressed and harsh on them. And so it's actually becomes a weakness. It's like it's my strength, but I use it too much, so it actually becomes a mistake, and where I get in trouble.
Yeah, I hear that. Okay, sorry, go on.
So if we think about that, as you get more familiar with these traits and how they work in you, you can start seeing, okay, we know our strengths. Like in 2 minutes, I could probably, figure out like what my strengths, but you'll see, do you rely on it too much? So these are the traits. And so the next part of the spiritual action plan is identifying, okay, go back to your goal. So that was the siblings for both of us, you and I. It was the sibling relationships. Right. What's a trait? Like, what's a trait? If we were going to work on that trait this year and really focus on it and try to grow in it, how could it help? Like, what's a key for helping? And we call that our soul curriculum. Your soul curriculum is this, again, a term I learned from Alan Marinis, that each of us has a specialized soul curriculum that's just ours, and the challenges we meet in life are for us to grow on that curriculum. So we have these goals around our siblings. There's something on my soul curriculum about that. So what's a trait on my soul curriculum that would help? And so for me, I'll tell you my example is responsibility, which is why it's bolded up here. Responsibility, for me, having control over and accountability for appropriate events. I want to take more responsibility for being in touch with my two brothers, with initiating text chains. We'll see as we go through. I have actual plan for this, but that's the trait that really feels key for me, is responsibility, not leaving it to them to take initiative or others to take initiative, but I'm going to take full initiative myself. So that's a trait for me.
So what about, what comes to my mind, not that it's me projecting, but let's just say a person who is dealing with the same thing we are might be saying to themselves, well, I'm sick of being the one that always is reaching out. If they would reach out to me more, things would be more balanced. So are you saying that essentially, if you want something and if it's part of your spiritual work for that season, you have to take full responsibility and not wait for others to?
It depends on what they think. So let's take that example. So say that example more would be not that the person wants to be more in touch, but maybe they're just annoyed at their sibling. Like they want to somehow support their siblings to be able to be more in touch. So yes, I think you need to take full responsibility for making that happen, but it just might be more tricky and nuanced, and you have to think it through. But yes, we need to take full responsibility for our growth. I think that's the message of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Clearly.
So, do you have one? Does a trait jump out for you in your situation?
Yeah, probably equanimity. And it's interesting because I'm full of zeal and passion and all of those things to the point where I think I annoy people with it sometimes. I think a little bit of peacefulness and tranquility would be, and serenity would be very, very helpful to allow space for other people to show up with their zeal.
Well, that's great. Great. And so, and then there's all kinds of ways of practicing equanimity and little things, which we'll move into in a second. So let's go to the next phase, the next slide.
And before you go on, someone just asked, is it better to do the spiritual curriculum with a friend, in order to get accountability?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is great. I do, I run a workshop, a full, 4-hour, 5-hour workshop on this. And then people will be in groups, after, where some people, not everyone, will do this in groups for the year so they can hold them accountable. Or also a friend is and a partner is, I think, essential to do this. So yes.
Okay, good. All right, here we go.
Okay, this was I explained this a little bit, that these traits all are on a continuum, and you want to, low self-esteem. We can skip this. I explained this one already.
Yeah. And if you're a psychotherapist, you might say that that low self-esteem can go up to narcissism, right? Oh, no.
Well, it's more of a circle, really, right? It's like those things touch each other. So the arrogance, the super, like there's probably a low self-esteem somewhere underneath that also.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I think that some ways they may meet in that way.
Okay.
Okay, we just did this. This was the thinking about what's a trait. So again, people at home, like, really think about these traits, what might be related. So let's go on.
All right.
Okay, now this is a very important piece. This really gets to the V of what you were talking about the last time, the verbalizing. And this is revisiting your situation. And again, it's so important. And this is based on a teaching in an ancient Jewish teaching from our Talmud, that when it talks about doing this type of work of this return and what we're trying to do during this period of time in the Jewish New Year, that we can actually really transform. And we can transform ourselves, and really believe in that. And one way we do it is by taking something that was in the past and visioning how it could be completely different. And so I'll give you an example for mine. So this is my vision of the future. So the past, I explained, looks like, nothing happens for months and months and months and months. And then my brother texts and I remember, I've been wanting to text. Like, that's kind of the way things look. Vision. All three of us are in regular phone, text, and video contact, and are up to date on what's happening in each other's lives and the lives of each other's families. We have fun/silly communications as well as meaningful conversations. We think together about our parents' well-being and our overall family. Isn't that great? Like, I love that vision.
It's a gorgeous vision. It truly is, especially when you're an adult, because our relationships with our siblings, they're so key. There's so much cutoff, and people who don't speak to each other. I think this could not be more important, even though it's yours.
It's so, like, and I think about, so what happens sometimes, I'll talk to my parents on the phone and they'll be like, oh, Rich's family's doing this. And I'm like, why didn't I know that? Like, I should know that, what's going on. So I have this vision. This is where we're going. So that's, again, I'm encouraging everyone at home to really work. And I'm not going to make you do that right now, Adrienne. It's a lot takes time to think it through. But I want to really, what do you see? What do you see that would excite you in that relationship, a way it could be? So that's the visioning statement. You write it out. And you can edit it, like, really get it so it excites you. Like, I read that, I felt chills. I felt like, wow, yeah, that's like, I'd be excited to live that way. Then the final step is to create a small action step. And now this is related somewhat to, again, what you had done, the P part in yours. The small action step, this is something to do regularly. So really, ideally, is going to be weekly or even daily, depending on the situation.
All right.
Mine probably daily is not appropriate here, but so I say small action step. On Sunday of each week, I repeat the phrase, I am responsible for my relationship with my brothers. It's kind of like a form of I am my brother's keeper,
I was just about to say, that sounds biblical.
Doesn't it? Yes. So I am responsible for my relationship with my brothers. I didn't intend it when I wrote it out that way, but it does sound like that. And so every Sunday, beginning of the week, I will say that. Maybe I'll attach it to, and when you have phrases like this is just a pro tip. When you have phrases like this, it's always good to connect them to something. So maybe walking the dog, or making the coffee in the morning, or something you do every day. Say your phrase, And you say it a couple times, say it for 30 seconds, repeat it. So I'll do it. For me, I'll just attach it probably to my prayers. But that's something I'll do.
Okay,
Then,
can I ask you something? Sorry.
yeah.
Why is the action step to say I am responsible for my relationship with my brothers versus, for example, saying I want to have a better relationship with my brothers? Why the sense of responsibility versus the desire, the end game?
It's a great question. I'm saying responsible because that's the trait I'm working on.
Okay,
So
got it. Okay,
yeah,
good.
I want to reinforce that.
Okay.
But you could do the thing you're saying also. Like if that would be a motivator to express the desire, then yeah, that's great.
Okay, got it. Sorry. Yep.
And then my action step is I have this thing I'm saying, but then there's an actual action. I have one weekly communication with each brother by text, phone, video. That, we'll see. Like that's like that's ambitious. That might be a little too ambitious as I'm reading it to you. This is why it's good to do it with someone. I wrote these out just by myself, so it's actually good to have a partner who can say to you, like, is that really? So we'll see. Maybe like every bye week might be a little more realistic, but we can see.
Rabbi Jaffe, what about a family chat? A family chat group so that, you feel like you don't want to be left out of the loop. If somebody's posting, you're going to respond.
So we do have that. We
Oh.
do have that, and it's and it gets active, at certain moments, and everyone jumps in. It's fun. So we do have that. And then even my younger brother, did set up a chat for the three of us, but he was the one mainly doing it, and I was always responding. We have that. So I want to say I want to be the one to initiate.
Okay, hear you.
Yeah, and I don't think, like, say I did that 3 weeks in a row, I don't think I'd always be initiating. I actually think my brothers would start picking up on it to go forward with it. So this is it. This is the plan. So let me review.
Okay, good.
You have the thing you're working on, which you call the tshuva item, or the thing you want to grow in the coming year. That's, you want to state that out. What is it? What's the thing? It could be sibling relationships, something with your kids, something with, I don't know, colleagues. Then you have the trait that's on your soul curriculum. That's right. This is the full. Thank you. This is the full thing. So you have the thing, right? So that's the acknowledgement of how you want to grow. And then you have the key trait that's related to it. Then you have the revisioning statement of the acknowledgement that's like, this is the future, what the future is going to look like. Then you have your action step that you can go to. And this makes up your spiritual action plan. And this is really, I would say, I have one here. If you just did this in a year, it would be really great. You can have 1, 2, 3. I would not have more than 4. Absolutely not have more than 4. You're not going to be able to do it. But just one is really good, because in spiritual growth in general, the idea is that you don't want to take on too much. You don't want to make it too hard, because you're going to fail. And we have a voice inside of us that's just waiting there to beat us up. And you're like, look at you. You thought you could do that, but you couldn't. Forget it. You're not going to be able to do anything.
I know that voice. That's the voice that tells you after you eat a piece of cake when you're on a diet that you may as well eat the whole cake, right?
Oh, you have that voice too. Okay, so we both have that voice.
I know her well. Yeah, okay. Just eat it all. What the heck?
Yeah, why not? It's like, so, yep, I know that one. So that we have that voice that's ready to go. And if we take on too much, it's just that's fuel for that voice. So you want to just take on like one little thing that you're gonna be successful with, and it flies. One of my teachers says, we call that thing in Judaism, it's called the Yetzer Hara, the inclination. So my teacher says it flies under the radar screen of the Yetzer Hara. We want to like be under the radar screen so it doesn't see it. It's so small, the things we're trying to do, that it doesn't even bother with the Yetzer Hara. And then we can have success, and then we build ourselves up.
Well, that's brilliant. Now, someone just asked another question, and this is really interesting. Do you tell the person that you're wanting to make a relationship change with them? Like, do you tell them, or is this your own private Idaho?
Yeah, it's going to be a depends answer. You don't want to undermine, your situation. Like, I'm trying to, I don't know, it is like I'm trying to be really kind to you this year. That can set yourself up for failure in a way, or they may get judgmental. It's really, I think it depends. It's not, you don't have to tell them. You don't have to.
Yeah, I would argue it's probably better not to, because A, it'll get thrown in your face, and B, it's just, it makes it about them and not about you.
That's right. Right.
You know,
Exactly.
I hope you'll send me those cards since, clearly we were meant to meet each other
Oh
today.
yeah. This is great.
I want to send them all. So how ironic is that really has been the thing bothering me. And when I do think of the midah, the soul trait,
Hmm.
it's about responsibility. It's about waiting for things to happen the
Right.
way they've always been happening. But
Right.
I know
Right.
what they say about that.
I think it happened.
Yeah, you're amazing. I can't thank you enough, Rabbi Jaffe. This is really great. I'm going, now that I've already done the work online, I hope everybody out there in Momentum
Yeah.
Land doing this. I love the idea of just picking one thing, because I think that when we're successful, we feel like we have the space to do more. Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. And build soul. You just want to be moving up the ladder. That's where that's the whole idea.
Please God this year. So I wish you a good,
Right.
sweet year. And thank you so much for sharing with us. It was so beneficial for all of us.
Oh, you're welcome, Adrienne. Really an honor to be here with your community. Shana Tova to everyone out there.
Shana Tova to you. Gosh. And now let's get to the family. What are we going to do this year to ensure that your family maximizes its opportunities that are available for Rosh Hashanah? So how can you create engagement and excitement in this very, very difficult time period? It's different. It's not what we're used to. So for that, we have Dr. Ronit Ziv-Kreger. She is Momentum's Director of Education and Leadership Development, and she has a PhD from MIT's Sloan School of Management, and she's a personal mentor of mine. I'm so honored to have her here. And Ronit, I'm so excited for this because I'm having family, and I want to know what to do. So take it away, Ronit.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrienne. What a treat to hear Rabbi David Jaffe, a friend and a colleague and a mentor, and to see the two of you work together. And I'm excited to really explore now what we do in our family as parents. Like David said, as parents, we're here to take leadership in our family. And we've been doing that in spades this year.
No kidding.
Even with COVID restrictions, most of us managed to figure things out this past Passover. We experienced sadness and loss, but also some newfound family experiences. Yet few expected that here we are. We'd still be tethered to our computers and to our homes for Rosh Hashanah, and that we'd need to figure out how to bring high holidays to our children without the support of family and community. Once again, I know we can do it. With a little bit of creativity and thought, we can ensure that Rosh Hashanah this year is meaningful for ourselves and for our families.
Great.
So together, let's pull back the curtains and think about the essence of Rosh Hashanah.
Great.
What's the essence of the holiday? How do we explore its themes with young children and with older children? So first, let's consider the three key ideas of the holiday. Awe, as in wonder or even transcendence, being remembered, and the shofar. And see how we can bring these into our homes with our children. So with wonder and awe, it's good to know that the Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, considers a child's prayer the highest form of prayer. Our young children have so much to teach us about wonder and awe. How might we invite our children to actually be the guides into seeing with fresh eyes this holiday? Let's think of a frequently repeated prayer in the synagogue service. It's the Kaddish, said not only by mourners, but actually at every transition between prayer sections. Its first word is Yitgadal, which means, may it be magnified. What if we took that literally? Magnifying can be a lens into magnificence, awe, wonder. I enjoy going on an adventure with children whether outside or inside, with a magnifying glass and looking at regular things that we encounter. Our skin, a leaf, a blade of grass, some bark, maybe a flower. Might we be seeing the fingerprints of the divine? Could these experiences remind us of other places and relationships where wonder is so close that we might be taking it for granted? What do you think, Adrienne?
I'm reminded of going into the school parking lot with one of my sons when he was in kindergarten, right around Rosh Hashanah. They were told to look for miracles. And he brought me to a crack in the sidewalk of the asphalt in the parking lot, and there was grass growing out of it. He said, "Look, Mom, it's a miracle. There's grass in the parking lot."
There you go.
I have the shivers just remembering this.
Amazing, amazing. So awe, one of the major themes of Rosh Hashanah.
Beautiful.
Let's go to theme number 2, being remembered. Books of life, so to speak, are opened, and we are each thought about one by one. At home, parents can schedule special one-on-one time with each child to discuss, to reminisce about the past year, to point out how your child expressed his strengths, her strengths, how they took initiative, dealt with a challenge, and grew. You may do this, for example, by looking at photo albums, or even by creating something with your child together, some collage, by creating a visual that shows our children being active, stretching, contributing, engaging with life. Not only enact their being remembered, but we do so in a powerful way that can sow a seed for their partnering with God towards making our world what it can be.
Wow.
Now, that's young children, but connecting with adults in their lives is vital for children of all ages.
True.
Teens or preteens may not always show it, but they too feel nourished from a connection with you. There's tremendous power in your attention as a parent. It's a precious resource. Giving a child our full attention is one of the building blocks of love. Committing to a regular time, even just 20 minutes of delighting in doing just what your child wants, is what special time is all about. It's not easy. For me, it's not easy, but there's a magic in putting away our distractions and giving our child our full attention and letting them direct the time together without our judgment or criticism. This can be a see good and say good time during which we don't bring up sore topics. With some teens, we may need to hang out and make ourselves available a while, offering our attention for a good while before they feel ready to take advantage of our loving attention and connect.
Right.
So, yeah, how does this play out? How did this play out in your parenting, Adrienne?
Gosh, Ronit, I feel very weepy. This presentation goes to the core, really, of what our Father or Mother in heaven is like looking at us for, right? And remembering for us. I just know that it's taken me a long time. Unfortunately, my sons are in their 20s, a long time to understand that I'm better off as a mirror than I am as a teacher with them.
Yeah.
And just the idea of, even with my older son, my 29-year-old son loves it when I send him old pictures for no reason. I started texting baby pictures to him. and reminding him of what he was doing and saying to him, this is what you do for a living now, but you were always like that. Look at this. And so for me, it's rung true in my own life. Ronit, this is so gorgeous. I bet, I just bet all of us are going to really focus over the next week or so on this kind of attending. I love it. It's a kind of a magnifying too, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
And it nourishes us when we as parents bring these ideas into our family. So far we've spoken about 2 of the 3 main Rosh Hashanah themes, awe, wonder, and magnificence, and about the theme of being remembered with special time. Let's go to the 3rd theme.
Okay.
The 3rd theme of Rosh Hashanah is the shofar. The only mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah is to hear the voice of the shofar. This year, we may not all be able to do that.
Right.
So we can get creative and explore to see if there is a public outdoor shofar blowing in our community, or there might be a person willing to come to us, to our street, and blow shofar for us in some communities. Kind of depends. And people can take initiative to explore and try and set this up.
Right.
But if not, we can still take the idea of awakening, which the shofar evokes. We can awaken to reflect on our traits, like Rabbi David Jaffe just described, right? We can awaken to apologize for our mishaps.
Wow.
To be generous with our forgiveness to ourselves and to others. We can awaken to be more thoughtful to the needs of others, both in our immediate family and in our neighborhood. So that's awakening, that's shofar.
It's interesting because it's kind of like the shofar is like a spiritual alarm clock, so to speak, right?
There you go.
Sometimes I ask myself, some people set their wake-up music in the morning, their radios to music, others to news, some to sounds. It's like it's as though this time of year, even if we're not going to get to hear it, and in my community in Toronto, for example, almost every synagogue is posting where you can go, which parking lot, which park, that sort of thing. So people should be able to find it. But I almost want to ask myself, based on this, what am I waking myself up to? Not just to become, but to notice, to attend to magnify. Wow.
Beautiful. It's almost that image of the airplane, right? Another way of thinking that Rabbi David Jaffe was talking about. What is it? What are our tools giving us a wake-up call to? Beautiful. I want to talk about one more thing, and that is, how do we engage members of our family, each in a way that fits them, to foster ownership in preparing for this Rosh Hashanah holiday?
Good question.
Someone might organize a pre-holiday Zoom or live stream with the family. Someone may prepare holiday cards. My daughter did that, prepared different holiday cards and printed them out, even for me, so I can use them. Yeah?
Nice.
Someone may find a way to make the holiday special for a person in need, an elder, or a family whose source of income is now lost. Some may go apple picking if there's an apple orchard nearby, or build an outdoor structure, a sukkah. Someone may bake round challah or prepare a Rosh Hashanah Seder. Yes, Seder.
Yeah, what?
It's a Rosh Hashanah Seder. I started with Passover, but here we are again. Rosh Hashanah Seder is a Kabbalistic idea of decorating our holiday table, our Rosh Hashanah holiday table, with symbolic foods and then eating them. To help with this, we prepared in Momentum a card and a video. It introduces the symbols both symbols you might be familiar, like dipping an apple in honey,
right?
But also symbols, Jewish traditional symbols that are less familiar perhaps, like having a head of a fish on the table. In light of the Torah saying, God will make you as a head and not as a tail, to symbolize making progress and not falling behind.
Can I have the head of a gummy fish, Ronit?
You can have a head of a gummy fish. Good idea.
Thank you.
Yes, there you go. But you can get creative, better yet, and invent your own playful food puns, like have raisins and celery if you'd like a raisin salary. And right? You can invent. It's time for getting creative.
Okay, question just for a second before you go to the
Sure.
books. Stay with me for a minute. Okay, could you make a salad that has all of those things in it?
You do you.
All right.
Right?
Okay.
This is not, there's no Jewish law about this. This is
Okay, cool.
a creativity invite.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Go for it. And there are, for some of these, we made in the card, you'll see there are some blessings that have been around for a good amount of time. So you can, make special blessings about what you aspire to and hope for the year, for your family and for others. Yes.
Cool.
So in the chat, you can find one link to all the resources that we've gathered for you. It
cool.
includes wonderful resources also for families with young children, created by PJ Library and by Jewish Interactive. So let's recap. We spoke of how you can engage your family at home with each of the 3 holiday themes: awe, as in wonder and magnificence; being remembered, as in having special time with each child; and the shofar, as in awakening. We also spoke of fostering ownership by exploring ways different family members can each contribute in a way fitting for them to making your home-based high holidays celebratory. As parents, you set the tone, together perhaps with young adults in your home. So we've prepared bite-sized learning cards for you, ranging from the 3 holiday themes we already spoke about, but going beyond them to include 10 holiday themes.
Cool.
We crafted a total of 10 cards, each including a short special teaching and also a question for reflection.
Love that.
Here are 2 examples. The cards are designed for printing at home. Picking 1 card a day or 1 at each meal, doing just a bit of learning and then sharing ideas and creativity with others in your community will make this a year of growth rather than a year focused on what cannot be. Jewish tradition has a long history of being responsive to new contexts. This year, each one of us can embrace this responsive nature of Judaism, and by doing so, strengthen our families and our communities.
Oh, Ronit, that was so beautiful. So there's going to be a link in the chat, and all you do is you print, and it could come out on paper, or you could do it on cardstock, I suppose, if you want.
True.
And I'm just thinking too, what could be interesting is if you're having people to your meal, your bubble is coming over, maybe you could send them out in advance so people could think about it.
Beautiful. You can send them out in advance. You can put one by each plate.
Oh, I
You can
love
put a
that.
bowl in the center and have people pick them. You can, whatever. There's so many different ways, and they're tiny little delicious teachings and questions for conversation. So enjoy them
Ronit, I'm so
and share
grateful.
them. Share them with others.
We will. I am so grateful for you. That was so moving and so beautiful that I just can't wait to get started. You are a marvel, my dear. Thank you. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you for the treat of
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
God bless you. Oh my, I just love that. So just formally, thank you so much. Minister Omer Yankelevich, Rabbi David Jaffe, and Dr. Ronit Ziv-Kreger for sharing your blessings and your wisdom and tips with us, and for helping to make this Rosh Hashanah more enriching